Today we're joined by a man who was the youngest ever Brit to win 2 Michelin stars and now has a food empire that runs from Belgravia to Doha to Tokyo and beyond. And talking about Japan, your Michelin star restaurant Muse is hosting a collab on the 10th of July with our previous guest, Joe Laker's favourite chef. Well, you're also one of his favourite chefs, but his other favourite chef, Chef Endo.
Yeah.
What culinary treats does the evening have in store for us?
Well, it's a fun. It's definitely gonna be a fun collab, and I kind of, I love doing the collaborations because it's a fun thing to do. It's a great way to interact with another chef, and chefs are very, very busy chaps and women and everything else as well. And trying to actually spend a decent amount of time with any of your comrades is sometimes quite tricky. So doing a collab, you kind of see them on the other side of the fence as well. So it's fun. But no, we're trying to, as always, as you do with these collabs, give a little bit of, something from them on the menu. But what we're trying to do this time is that this idea came up when I did a collaboration in Tokyo with Chef Zayu from Den. And what we did, rather than with a normal collab where someone does 3 courses, the other does 3 courses, we kind of then played on each other's own 3 courses where, for instance, I added some garnish or he added a little bit of something to my sauce or whatever. So it was just a little bit more thought and detail rather than just saying, okay, you're going to do 4 courses and I'm going to do 4 courses and there's the collab.
So you still come up with your courses?
Yeah, but then I'm doing, for instance, Endo is, we start off with a round of snacks, which comes from us, and then he's doing 6 different styles of sushi. And on the sushi is where I'm adding something that I've foraged. So whether that's like some pickled cherry blossoms or could be a rose oil or something like that. So there's a little bit of something from me to flavour his sushi, and then he's going to let me know what he wants to do to mine. So
yeah, right. Sounds great.
So it's a little bit more thought rather than saying, as I said, like
it's a proper collab.
Yeah,
rather
exactly.
than a fake one.
Well,
there are a lot of fake collabs going on at the moment.
And then the other thing is, the way that the service is run, is very different as well, because with his sushi, it's about him doing his thing, where, in a way he wants to be able to demonstrate, what he is doing to people. So people, the way that we're having it is we got 6 people coming in a block of time, so it'll be like first, second, third, fourth seating. So there's a nice clue, and then he can then spend time with each of the 6 rather than it being all at once.
Is it sold out?
Well, it's sold out in about an hour and a half.
Oh, it's just annoying, isn't it?
Yeah.
I suppose if you've got...
You want to put on another 6 at the end or not?
It's a bit different.
Okay, fair play. Your normal 10-course menu is all inspired by your memories.
Yes.
My favourite...
I have a lot of memories.
Yeah, when I was looking at the menu... Oh, we're going to bring them up, don't you worry about that.
Sure
my favourite one is the bitter cold.
Yeah.
Can you talk us through the story behind that? Because it's brilliant.
I can't remember it. Which one was it?
Pierre Koffmann.
Oh, yes, the bitter cold. Yeah, old Pierre. So basically... so when I was working with him back at Royal Hospital Road, the Le Temps Clair restaurant, which is obviously the mecca of a lot of talented and amazing chefs in the UK that we have. No, he just used to, throughout spring, summer, autumn, winter, you'd be outside prepping, and in the, dark winter cold days of November. Well, I'd say even September sometimes, September through to February, March, when you're preparing and shucking, scallops or scaling fish or whatever outside, it was
bitter.
Hold on, why are you outside?
Well, because it was a way of, sometimes him punishing you and, get out on the naughty step,
right.
Or it was just a bit easier because you just washed down outside and, it was done rather than making a mess in the inside kitchen. But, of course, he wouldn't let you, wear a coat or anything or gloves or whatever.
Really?
Just get on with it, yeah.
So what, the bitter cold as a dish, what is...
that one I can't remember, but it was
maybe Freddie, you could.
It was a crossover because, as I keep, interacting all these different stories that I have, I think it was actually a scallop dish because it was, we were constantly preparing the scallops outside. And it was a, kind of a pun on a pun, so to speak. As it being in winter, it was probably something with root vegetables or something, salsify, I think, or something.
Mentioning the menu, when you opened, you got a lot of abuse. I thought massively unfairly.
Did you know that?
No, but in the press, saying it was, the most pretentious menu in history.
Oh yeah.
By the way,
That
we
one.
can swear on this podcast. Let's get angry. But I mean, what were they talking about? And did you feel, because you then did put ingredients listed, whereas I think at first you didn't.
No. I had always, the idea was, to always have ingredients. There was going to be 3 main ingredients and then a story. And okay, people didn't like that, but who really cares?
Exactly.
At the end of the day, everyone is entitled to an opinion.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're a free country, just about. So I think, the idea for me was being, that little bit more personal, having that sort of intimacy that you may not get. And along with some nice stories, and I think the problem with a lot of restaurants, they don't really give that sort of intimacy, that kind of in-depth personal touch, which you would sometimes expect. And if people think it's pretentious, then, they're probably saddos.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Do you know who said that?
It was just an article. I think you'd mentioned it before, them just being annoying. But you are looking for a new head chef. If you could pick one in the world right now, this is quickfire. Who are you going for?
Oh, God.
Who's your favourite chef?
Well, listen, if I could have 2 chefs molded together, it would probably be Pierre Koffmann and Joël Robuchon, married into one.
I don't
Really?
know. Can we get them back into the kitchens? I don't know.
At their
know,
peak or now? You'd be
Well,
sort
at
of
their
like
peak,
you'd be sort of shuffling them around.
At their peak, yeah. No, at their peak, yeah. Because it's funny, because they were both amazing chefs, and when I worked with, as I said, worked with both of them, and Pierre Koffmann, he was, his very sort of gutsy, hearty soul kind of guy, and that related into his food. Is very, very a lot of thought into like beautiful sauces, and just there wasn't too much sort of, I'd say, frills and spills. It was just the heart of the flavoursome, tasty dish, with bold flavours and a simplistic approach to that. There wasn't a lot going on the plate. There wasn't too much that was like tweezered back then. That's for sure. It's like get on the plate,
Put it on the plate,
get
yeah.
on. And it didn't really matter where it went. Whereas with Joël Robuchon, everything was precision, everything was detailed, and if you didn't have 39 dots, then it was in the bin. So having the sort of 2 comparisons for me as a chef was very interesting. And again, character-wise, in terms of how they run the kitchen, both very different. Pierre Koffmann was very, very vocal, in how he communicated to his chefs. Whereas with the Joël Robuchon in service, it was silence.
Really?
Yeah.
What was more terrifying though? Because obviously,
it was because
you've got Pierre screaming at you, and then Joel.
And then it was complete silent. Apart from he would call on the checks, and that was it. Nothing else. And it made you train your ears to listen to everything. And because like all the checks, were very detailed, and the menu was. It was a big menu. You had a full a la carte. You had 2 tasting menus, and then you had specials as well. And I was on the meat, so it was a tough section. So we basically had to write everything down. Literally, we had like a piece of aluminium tinfoil stuck to the table, and then we'd write down everything that came on, the cuisson, and how it was prepared, etc., etc. And then on top of that, you're doing cooking and plating, and so it was tough, I would say.
Extraordinary.
I'd read that some chefs couldn't even look him in the eye. You got bollocked if you looked him in the eye during service.
Well, the thing is, when I was there, I was, the only English boy, of course. And I think being the only English boy, I obviously stood out, a fair bit. And particularly with red hair, because definitely I haven't seen many French people with red hair. And, it's funny because I, through the course of my own career and traveling in France anyway, I spoke pretty much fluent French anyway, so I could communicate with everyone, which was great. And I think, he thought that the Brits sort of, kind of liked omelets and things like this. So when his wife used to come in, he would say, "Oh, who's going to make my wife, lunch?" And all the chefs were like, "Not me, not me." L'anglais, they're good at making omelets. So then I would have to make the omelet for his wife. And the first time I did it, the French are very particular with their omelets. You can't have any color. It's got to be, as they say, baveuse, which means kind of, semi-cooked and nice and runny on the inside. So I was like, oh my God. Anyway, he said, "Oh, I got a thumbs up."
Oh, really?
It was perfect, yeah. And so from then on, I had to make the omelettes every single time.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so I thought,
What about the
kudos.
working hours there? Apparently they were beyond anything.
Well, yes, they were beyond anything. But as I'd say, it's a balance of, sort of, okay, you're in one of the best restaurants in the world, working for the best chef in the world. Okay, the hours, they kind of suck, but you just did it.
But what were they?
Yeah, what
were they?
Well, just how long is it?
I was sleeping 3 hours a night, so I would get up at. I was living in a place called Place République, which is near the Gare du Nord, and I'd have to get to Trocadero on Avenue Poincaré. So it was a good 45-minute, on the metro. So I'd get up at 4:45. I would get there at around 5:40. We'd meet sort of a few of the chefs and have 2 double espressos at about 5:45. And then we'd be in the kitchen, at 10 to 5 to 6. And then we work all the way through until 4 p.m. I'd go for a 20-minute break for a big bowl of Haagen-Dazs ice cream to get that sugar load. And then be back, and we would leave at around 1 o'clock in the morning. And then I'd be home at 2:45, be in bed by 2, and get up at 4:45.
Wow.
Christ.
Yeah. So you do that 5 days a week, and then you have the weekends off. Friday was even more of a killer because you would probably get home when you hear the old birds tweeting. It was quite romantic of being in Paris. You hear the birds tweeting, but not when you've just worked,
Is that because
2 hours.
drinking after a shift, or is that because you were doing a deep
just
clean?
Finished deep clean, yeah.
Yeah.
I got home, generally on a Friday was like 4:45 in the morning.
Christ.
Yeah, so it's quite hardcore.
That's pretty rock and roll.
But on the upside, as I said, you were working with amazing chefs, you were working with amazing produce. You learned a hell of a lot. Everything was about the team, and I was petrified going there because I thought, I worked with Pierre at Tom Claire. All the chefs, they hated the Brits, like completely. They just thought we're the worst of the worst, couldn't cook at all. Roast beef, that was about it, can't cook. So when I went to Paris, I thought, oh my God, they're going to be like even worse.
Yeah.
And they weren't. They were super friendly, they made me feel at home. And as I said, it was all about working together as a team and helping each other. So, it kind of made it, that little bit easier. And as I said, you really got to understand, the benefits of, when chefs really work well together in terms of, the workload that we all had was insane. Every section just had so much to do. So everyone, in a way, did really help each other.
And when you were working with Pierre, obviously you had some incredible dishes. What was your favourite dish of Pierre's?
Oh, there were many. Obviously,
give us a couple.
The pig trotter, of course, with the mashed potato. You had the scallops with the ink sauce and red pepper and garlic puree. You had the foie gras sauterne with a little roasted potato and the sweet shallots. You had, all these game dishes they used to have, lièvre, hare royale. You used to have, partridge and teal, and just like endless mouth-watering stuff. It's confit salmon with a pepperade. It was just like delicious.
He seems like such a lovely, warm, just like melty man nowadays. Obviously, he wasn't like that back in the day. What was the angriest you ever saw him? Like, is there one day in your memory which still stands out?
Well, listen, he used to have, his moments, as we all do, and when things sometimes don't go right. And, I just remember, he had these big, heavy wooden clogs, and you get occasional, kicking the ankle, or a little tap. But it's part and parcel, and, he's just like, he's being himself. And, sometimes he did get upset, but it was what it was, and we just got on with it. But at the end of the day, he was a great teacher, amazing guy to work for, very, very passionate about being a chef, and being in the kitchen with the guys, leading from the front. And, it just shows that, the amount of chefs that work through his kitchens and who he developed and helped to develop is a total, respect to him.
Yeah.
Well, we are sponsored by Deli, who are just the most incredible online food marketplace. And each episode, we play a little game called Deli Steady Cook, where we bring out a mystery bag of their amazing products.
Okie dokie.
And by the way, if you want to get hold of these products, you can use the code GOTODELI with the double L, and you get 25% off. You're welcome. But Tom, Ben is going to present you a little cheeky bag, and you're going to say, at the end of the pod, what you would make with these things.
Alrighty.
Yeah, so I'm just going to talk you through them.
Okay.
And then you can have a think about it.
All right. How long do I get? 5 seconds?
No, you have
the whole podcast.
So you got about another 40
just
minutes
at the
to
end,
think
we'll
about.
come back.
Okay, cool,
Yeah.
cool.
Is this the right bag, Tom? Yes, it is. So I've got a couple of naughty little tinned fishes. There's a tuna and a sardines.
Tuna, my favourite.
They're beautiful.
My wife is going to be like laughing because she knows that I don't like really sort of oily fish. So.
Oh, really?
Anyway, it's fine.
Well, you can. I mean, one of them
I
you
could
could
do
just
Well,
give to her when you
you're
get
taking it
home.
home for your wife tonight. So hopefully
Coconut milk.
Coconut milk. Coconut
This
milk.
is unbelievable coconut milk
Okay.
from the Rempapa Spice Co.
Oh, nice.
Sambal Shiok, very nice restaurant. They've got a signature laksa paste,
Lovely.
so you can. I mean, in
There's
some ways,
like a curry coming on at the moment.
Yeah, there's something.
and then the same people that make the coconut milk make this very
Ooh.
naughty little turmeric and lemongrass. It's sort of a marinade. It's sort of a curry curry paste. And then some of the best ramen noodles you can buy. So I'm going to put that back in your bag.
You can just think about that. I feel you're already there, but
No, but you know, you can.
we're not going to push you for an answer right away.
No, that's good. That's good.
Tom, you knew you wanted to be a chef from an early age.
Very early, yeah.
When I'm reading your menu, I see a lot inspired by your mum when you were out, foraging up in Norwich. Just tell us what are your
Norfolk.
Norfolk. Well,
Is
Norwich.
Norfolk and Norwich not the
It is.
Oh, no,
But
so
I
you
was
went to Norwich Catering College, which we'll come on to, but Norfolk, as in the wider county. When you're in Norfolk, you're probably not going to be rummaging around in sort of Norwich city
Definitely
centre.
not. Well, yeah, no.
Yeah, you'd be getting different things around
Different
there.
things.
Maybe on a late Saturday night when I was a teen, yeah.
But just give us a couple of your childhood food memories, because obviously your twin brother's also a chef as well.
Yes, he is, yeah.
But you guys must have been quite competitive. Did you fall in love early?
Well, I mean, we're identical twins, and we were each other's, sort of, I guess, best friend. We were never sort of competitive to a degree. We sort of helped each other a lot. And, growing up in where we did in Norfolk in the country, we were literally on the cusp of sort of, into the countryside.
Yeah, where are we? Just give us some names.
So a little village called Cringleford. So it's probably like 4 miles outside or 3 miles outside of Norwich.
Okay.
And basically, yeah. So mother was as I said, a great home cook. She grew everything in our garden. We had a massive sort of vegetable garden that she tended to every day. Spring, summer, autumn, winter, something would be growing. So there's always something that needed to be attended to. Whether it was picking or sowing or weeding or picking. So
you were sent out to do that.
Yeah, I mean, child labour and all that. Yeah, so probably I remember, it must have been about probably 5, 6, going in there and just eating things straight off the
nice.
plants as you do. And then that sort of went into the kitchen. I remember, digging up first sort of lovely new potatoes out of the garden, out of the earth, straight into the pot and the pan and cooking them and eating them in 30 minutes. And you can't just beat that flavour and taste.
No.
So we then started, sort of cooking in the kitchen with the mother and helping the family meal, and then doing, sort of sweet stuff and cakes and breads and stuff like that. And then my father, he was in the wine business, so he had a importing, exporting company as well as a shop in Norwich. So he was doing a lot of traveling through France. So a lot of our, sort of sometimes our Easter holidays, summer holidays, we spent, in France, driving all the way down to the Auvergne, where we kind of went on summer holidays. So we would kind of nip in, 2 or 3 different sort of wine regions as well. He would go and see his suppliers. We then come out sometimes for lunch, or we go and brush the cellars out or something, something interesting. So in a way, it was quite evident that we were going to somehow sort of, be steered into that path.
You sort of had no choice.
Well,
as in not that they were.
It was kind of, our world, and because I would say we were pretty naughty as kids, school was pretty at the back of our heads, in terms of being fulfilled in any way on that side. And we must have been just before we left primary school, going into high school, we kind of made the decision at 11 that we were going to be chefs, literally at 11 years old.
Really?
Yeah. And so I had it on my shoulders that I would, at the age of 11, pretending to be a school leaver, at 16, I rang up the local college, Norwich City College, at 11, put on my deep voice, and said, look, I'm interested in becoming a chef. What qualifications do you need? Do I have to have an interview? What's the process? And they were like, no, not at all. No, you just come for an interview with one of our head teachers, and yes, there'll be an entrance exam, but it's very, very easy. It's multiple choice, and basically, if we like you, we'll take you. And I was like, so there's no exam. You don't need any results. No, not at all. No. So I then, entered going into high school knowing that I didn't need any qualifications at all whatsoever. So in a way, the next 5 years were a bit of a blur.
You were
And
liberated.
I bummed around literally, and I put through my parents through hell, because you can imagine every parent's teacher's evening, just got worse and worse and worse. Like, what your son's doing, he's a loser, he just messes around, he's a clown. Yeah. Maybe you should go and be employed as in the local circus or whatever, because that's, one more suited. And so this went on, every year. And then we promised our parents on our last year at school that of course we'd revise really hard, and, we'd study and da-da-da. And of course we didn't, we're just in our rooms and listening to music or whatever. And, and anyway, my father, I remember the day, we were standing in the kitchen, and my father is, sort of, well, I think he's thinking that he's going to be a proud father after seeing our results. And of course that wasn't the case. So he's reading the results. And I remember sort of seeing his face going from kind of like quite chipper to then like bloody furious. And he turned to me and my brother and he goes, I just can't believe these results. What the F are you going to do? He was literally like, fuming. His face had turned red. And we were like, well, I don't know. And then he just got angrier. And then I just thought, okay, I better tell him the truth now. So I said, we're going to become chefs. And he looked at us like, what do you mean you're going to become chefs? I'm like, why? And then I explained the whole story. I said, well, just think about, with mother, growing up the garden, cooking and, going tendering vegetables and all this, going to France and trying restaurants, suppliers, blah, blah. And then I could see him like, well, how's this going to happen? You got no result. Like, what are you going to do? Mm. And I thought, okay, I better own up even more here. So I said, well, as it happens, when I was 11, I called them up and they told me that I didn't need any qualifications. So at that point, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry or whatever. Anyway, he then said, well, there's no other choice, off you go.
That's all you've got, yeah.
So that's what we did. Yeah. So then we went to college and, we were then, went from sort of, I guess, D class students to A. We were,
quite a turnaround at that point.
Yeah.
And then post-catering college, you start applying for jobs. And you're struggling to get in the door. So what do you have to do to get in with the wonderful, or should I say terrifying, David Cavalier?
Well, the funny thing was, again, it's a conundrum of when you leave, your study place, college or whatever, higher education, university, you kind of have to figure out what the hell are you going to do to get a job, which is what it was all about. So me being, a very happy-go-lucky kind of student, that excelled and I was very passionate and hardworking and whatever, I said to my father, I've got to go to London. That's where, everyone is. You had... Yeah, this is, I'm talking, 1990s. So, you had the Roux brothers, you had Marco, you had Pierre Koffmann, you had Nicolas Dennis, Raymond Blanc, just all these guys, were at the sort of coming into the pinnacle of their careers. And I said, I've got to go to London. That's where it's happening. So I said to him, can you help me just, kind of have a steer? Maybe I should apply to some hotels as well. So I literally wrote off to about, 15, 20 different places. That was when you actually wrote a letter, which is kind of, thing back in the... You wrote to people? Used as a stamp? How does that work?
Quite charming.
And anyway, did all that. And basically, a few wrote back. And I wish I had kept the letters, but I didn't. But, and the majority said, look, can't come and work here because you don't have enough qualifications. Sorry, you don't have enough work experience. Or, and I put, all this, that I'm hardworking and passionate and dedicated and I can give everything to you and da-da-da. But that was like, okay, how am I supposed to get experience if I can't get any? It's like a bit of another conundrum. So I then said to my father, what about, this sounds a bit stupid, but what about if I write again and I'll say that I'll work for nothing, for free? And he looked at me like, are you crazy? I was like, well, it's the only way that I'm going to actually show people that I am dedicated and, maybe I'm a little reasonably bit gifted in what I want to do as a career. So okay, well, why not? Anyway, so I did that and then I got two responses. One was from David Cavalier and the other one was from one of the Roux brothers at the Gavroche. And they just said, look, very sweet and quite a humble sort of letter and, we just can't let you because back then as well, all these restaurants, they actually had a waiting list, which is kind of hard to believe, for chefs to get in. So all of them had literally like a 2-3 year waiting list for people to come in. Wow. It was kind of crazy world back then. And then David popped up and said, look, yeah, come on in, I'll take you.
Yeah.
So then I went to work with David, and so I worked for free. I wasn't paid a penny, and I worked with him for 6 months. And after that, he gave me a job and said, look, definitely think, you've got something. And so I stayed with him for a year. And at that point, coming to the end of the year, I wanted to go and work with Pierre Koffmann after that, definitely. So he then helped me get an interview. Or no, it wasn't really an interview. It lasted about 3 minutes, and that was it. It was so funny.
Really?
Yeah. I kind of David had called him up. Or whatever you did back then, I can't even remember. There weren't even mobile phones then, so I don't know what he did. Anyway, got an interview, and I went in. I was like, absolutely petrified, as you can imagine. I was then only 20.
Yeah.
Wee thing of a lad, and there was this big, brusque sort of French chef, and I was probably dressed in an oversized suit or something, as you would be back then, and. Going to meet him, and I'm sitting in the reception area, and I've been told to wait, and my palms are sweating, and I'm like, oh my god, everyone's staring at me. Who's this little boy coming in? And anyway, he comes in and shakes my hand and says, so you want a job? I said, yes, please. And basically said, you can come as a commis, and yes, you can start in 2 weeks. Okay,
done.
See you, bye.
That's great.
And that was it.
But didn't you end up having walked out on David before? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that was a funny experience. So basically, the whole point of, as I said, when I went, I was kind of treated with kid gloves a little bit because, I wasn't getting paid. So in a way, I wasn't doing as many hours as the other guys. I was still coming in, at sort of 7:30 or whatever in the morning, and I was finishing at 9 o'clock at night. 9:30, 10, whatever. But then when I was paid, I was coming in I was on the veg section, like entremetier. So I was then coming in at 6:30 and probably finishing at, 11:30 or whatever, so midnight. And then I was living, where the hell was I living in? Balham or something, pretty grody. And at that point, my twin brother, we were sharing a flat together. And he was in the midst of also, he was starting with the Brew Brothers. He was doing their sort of private dining to begin with, and then he had a job that was starting at the Gavroche. And in this time, he was having every evening off because he was starting super early at 4 a.m. because it was contract catering, and then he finished at 4 in the afternoon or something, 4 or 5. So, and he was literally going out every night because we also had our cousin. She was staying with us as well, and he was going out with her and having fun and obviously seeing lots of girls. And as a young boy in London,
that's what you want to do.
What you want to do is what you want to do. And there was me fucking working my ass off, feeling like shit. And there's my brother literally coming in at the same time as I was finishing work, been on night out, had a few beers and met some nice girls. And there was me, looking and probably smelling like shit and not having much fun and getting bollocked, and getting paid probably £150 a week. So I was just after about 2 months, I thought, this is shit. I'm a young boy. I should be out having fun, partying. And anyway, so I think I had one night, I had a bad service and got told that I was probably lowest of the load and shit and whatever. And then I felt so sorry. I was like, oh, I can't do this. I can't come in. Anyway, so I wrote a letter and I put it in my fridge and said, I'm really sorry, but I can't take it anymore, and I've had enough, and I'm not coming in tomorrow. And the funny thing was, I was the first one in. At that point I had keys, so I had left the keys as well in the fridge, shut the door behind me because I was always the first one in, and then it's funny, all the chefs told me that because I was the first one in, when I wasn't there, shit, where's Tom? What's happened? The door would, so they obviously knew that something. And then they were like, okay, we better start the mise en place and whatever. So they looked inside the fridge, saw the letter, and they shut it straight away. They didn't want to tell David. And Anyway, so it's funny because like back then again, like how the hell do you get in touch with people? Because there wasn't mobile phones. I didn't have a mobile phone. So they knew where I lived. So I got a letter through the door about 5 days later from his wife saying, "Oh, please come back. David wants to have a chat with you." And at that point in the sort of week that I had been off, I kind of, been out, been with some girls, had fun, drank a beer and had a few drunken nights. I was like, okay, it's fun, but, it's okay. It's not really like, I'm not going to do that every fucking night, am I? You know what I mean? And even in that week that I had fun and whatever, I kind of missed it, I missed the, being told off and the adrenaline and the fun of the kitchen and the sort of, hard atmosphere. And anyway, I went and have a chat with David and he was very sincere and, and he just said, look, okay, I'm not going to say lies that it's going to get easier or any better. It is what it is. That's just how it is. Accept it. But I can say that honestly, that you've got something. And I think, if you stick with it, you're going to go far. And at that point I was like, oh wow, he's actually saying to me that I'm okay. I'm quite good. And then that's why I went back.
Have chefs got weekend now, do you think? I mean, is it harder to find people who actually really want to, scrap their way to the top?
Listen, I think it's we're in a very different environment. We're in a very different place, and I think the objectives and goals are very different. I think today, as a young chef from when I was obviously starting, and I had a projection and I knew my path. From the moment that I had stepped foot, into college. And another story that, that came around when I was at college, which I don't know if I told you or not, but it was another momentous occasion in my career, was that I think I was there for like 2 or 3 months, and the teacher that I'd had my interview with, he came up to me and he pulled me aside. He said, look, just beware, I'm keeping an eye on you. And I said, what do you mean by that? Because it sounded a bit weird. And he said, well, I'm just going to tell you this, but, you're very lucky to be on this course. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He says, well, the only reason we took you was because you're a twin. And I was like, excuse me? He says, well, yeah, we weren't going to take you because you had a bad interview. And the only reason we did was, because you're a twin and we didn't want to separate you. Sure. So I was like, thanks for the pep talk, mate. So I turned around to him as a cocky 16-year-old. I said, well, you know what? In 10 years' time, you're going to know who I am and I'm going to be famous.
Did you send him the newspaper cuttings? Have you been the youngest two Michelin
Well, I did.
star
I mean,
chef?
that kind of projected into, as I said, where I went to, the reason who I wanted to go and work with and the chefs that I went to work with. And for me, the most important thing was like, how do I put myself to a degree on a pedestal amongst others, And the only thing that I thought was, I need to work out of, everyone needs to work out of their comfort zone. But, working in London, to a degree, you were already out of your comfort zone, but I meant to take it to another level, another sort of extreme environment. And that's why I wanted to go and work in France, because I knew no one was working abroad out of London or out of the UK. And I just thought, if I did that, then someone is going to notice little me.
Yeah.
When you were at Pierre in London, though, apparently it was one of the most brutal kitchens in the country. Can you just tell us how tough that was? Was that the toughest place you worked, do you think, in terms of...
Well, Robuchon was definitely the toughest
in England.
on the hours, but on working in Pied à Terre back in the day, yeah, it was pretty intense, yes, I would say.
Can you tell us a couple of little memories?
Well, I'm not going to go into details, but I mean, because at the end of the day, it's not what you do, but I mean, there were just definitely lots of instances where, the intense pressure of being, of what you were put under as a young boy, which I definitely say, I mean, I think anyone between 20 and 30, I know it shows how old I am when I say you're a young boy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think, what Richard's, I would say, in terms of management skills of people, non-existent, that's for sure. But he was an amazing chef, an amazing cook, that was where his talent shone. And I think, back in those days, obviously HR didn't exist, and it was probably for a good reason, because there wouldn't be anyone in the kitchen working. So you know, and I remember, you know, I had a lot of, you know, chefs that I was working with that, you know, come and went, and to a degree, you know, you kind of just got on with it because you didn't know any better. And in a way, it's quite, you know, it is, you know, when I think back, you know, it's quite to a degree sad because I can't also, you know, it's quite, you know, hazy, a lot of it. I don't remember a lot of it. And in a way, it rubbed off on me in a bad way as well. You know, I was, you know, an obnoxious little shitbag as well. I was, you know. And
do you regret it? I mean, obviously you became
head chef. I mean, I think, you know, when you're in that environment, you know, of intensity and just in the way that you're spoken to, it's not an excuse, you know, in the way that you should behave as a human being, you know, but in a way, of course, you know, I kind of view it as a Clockwork Orange moment, you know, if you remember in that film where he's got his eyes open and he's like seeing all these things happen and he's turned into this, you know, monosyllabic monster. Yeah. And in a way, you know, it's you know, it was just kind of a crazy moment. So I would say that, you know, although I'm very happy in terms of, you know, what I achieved, but apart from that, you know, it was all a bit of a blur.
It's always the same story which keeps on getting pulled up in like every paper. The fact, you know, that one evening when you ended up having to leave the restaurant, when you were head chef afterwards, right? But
you've done your homework here.
Yeah, but
you were stoking the fire.
But you were always going to go and set up your own restaurant anyway, which obviously you got Michelin star in its first year, which we're going to touch on shortly. But obviously there was that one night where you had an interaction with another chef, supposedly with like a knife and
palette knife,
a heated palette knife. Do you still remember that night? Is it like washed out in your mind?
I listen. You know, I don't want to go in details because you know you know it's part of my earlier career that I'm you know not too proud of as such, or you know have fond memories, but at the end of the day, you know, I learned a valuable life in lesson, and I was definitely taught a big lesson, you know, in terms of as a person, in terms of what you should and shouldn't do, and you know, and I had to deal with a lot from that in terms of the fallout, as did the other guy. But at the end of the day, you know, we're all human beings, and everyone should be treated fairly and respectfully, and in their workplace, and particularly when they're working for you, they're putting the hours, the effort, the time, and they come to learn in your place of work, which should be a safe haven, you know. And at the end of the day, you know, I messed up.
But the industry's changed so much now. I mean,
yeah, of course it has.
You're obviously working for so many people where things like that were just kind of happening, right? I mean,
what I think is interesting, like, so I've never worked in that sort of thing, but a place called the Dot Kitchen where I worked for a long time, we did like, I don't know, 100 covers a night, and it was it was a sort of new wave, a very relaxed restaurant. But still, when you're in the middle of that service and something goes wrong, you just lose your shit. Like, it was a very peaceful, like, chiller restaurant. So it is a hard one because it's like, being a chef is like thousands of like tiny deadlines being pushed in your face all the time.
Yeah, I know.
So on the one hand, I can kind of understand how it gets.
You know, the maturity comes, and you know, and this is the whole point. You know, as I say, between your learning years as a chef, as soon as you finish that, you're a different person. You know, everything is on you in terms of managing your staff, managing your kitchen. You know, you and to a degree, it's not that you never stop learning, but it's a different, you know, it's a whole another different element of you know, of you as a person. And I don't think that I had, you know, I definitely know that I didn't have the tools to be able to deal with that, because no one had said, you know, okay, this is what you do or whatever.
Did you have anyone around you as like a mentor at that time? Kind of,
no,
because you get taught to be a chef, but you don't get taught to be.
You don't. No, and I couldn't. You know, I definitely couldn't deal with the, you know, with the stresses and the pressure all that well. And you know, I definitely, you know, as I know, had some anger management issues, which I dealt with. That's for sure. But I think, you know, it's as I said, as a maturity and the way that you mature as a person, and I can see it, you know, through my career in terms of the 20s to 30s, the 30s to 40s, the 40s to 50s, etc. Just how you view things in terms of, you know, everything that goes on and around your world. It's you know, it's very different.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should have a drink. We're going to now do the go-to drinks, where we're going to quickly ask you your sort of go-to cocktail and a couple of other things. So Ben is going to reveal something from his bag of mysteries. What do you have for us today?
Did you want something alcoholic or non-alcoholic?
Probably non-alcoholic. But I don't even know what the time of day is in here. Do you know?
No, it's like Las Vegas.
Is it 3 in the morning or? I don't really know. Feels sunny.
You choose.
Oh, good. What's that? So this is obviously from our wonderful friends at Deli. What is it?
It's a wine alternative, and which it's not normally a good thing, but this is unbelievable.
That looks amazing.
So I'm going to crack it open.
Okay.
Freddie, you crack it open.
Okay. Tom, we'll ask you, what is your go-to cocktail?
Whiskey sour.
Whiskey sour?
Yeah. It's funny because with a lot of, with a lot of chefs, it's kind of like when you go out to a place, everyone has their sort of, signature drink or signature plate of food, and they go to a place and, and they're hoping that it can be, as good as they expect. And it's kind of your pinnacle drink or choice of food that marks the scale of a restaurant, how good it is. And my thing is, is always a whiskey sour when I go to a place. And, it's just one of those classic cocktails that can be so amazingly beautiful, and it can go also horribly wrong.
Does Muse do a good one, I'm guessing?
Well, we don't do a whiskey sour as such, but we do, we do other sours and things, and, we kind of have a very short cocktail list as such, but because we have a very small space to work in. But, the whole whiskey sour, I think that the garnishing, obviously, yes, of, fresh egg white being used, Angostura bitters, a little, cocktail cherry as well, and sometimes it's garnished with a bit of, orange peel or dried orange as well. But, as long as it's got those three things, then happy days.
Then we're happy.
Cheers, Tom. Thanks for coming in. Have a taste of this. This is not wine alternative. Whole raspberries, chamomile, Murray River salt, organic cane sugar, and Vigeux.
Smells very sweet when you first.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, you could drink it.
Very tasty.
I mean, you get the chamomile, you can get the salt.
Yeah, sort of taking you back to your days in the fields.
Right, Tom.
Yeah.
Somehow Freddie and I are coming around for dinner at yours.
Yeah.
You're giving us a whiskey sour.
Yeah.
What are you putting out with it? Are we getting some little snacks, some canapes? What's your go-to kind of?
Oh, I am, when I'm cooking at home, I'm a kind of, simple man, no frills, no spills. And for me, I mean, you'll probably laugh at this, but you cannot beat a good cheese straw.
Yeah, nice.
I agree.
Yeah.
Are you making it for us?
Yeah.
I'd like to hope so.
So nice, dashed in plenty of Worcestershire sauce and Tabasco, black pepper, definitely a nice mature aged Montgomery cheddar, bit of, Parmesan and Gruyere, and
delicious.
That does sound
paprika, cayenne.
delicious.
Yeah. Definitely.
What about morning drink? First thing you drink in the morning?
First thing I drink in the morning, I do. I've got into a habit of drinking just, a lot of water now. I mean, and I have done for years, and I don't have any other drinks really other than, water, really. It's a bit boring.
Strange question. Just room temperature water?
Room temperature, well.
We had someone come on the pod a while ago who drank
cold.
Boiling water.
Yeah. Well, maybe it was with some lemon it helps to, get the things.
Okay, so you could get on board
get
with
things
Rubens.
Going in the morning, as they say. But yeah, I drink at least 2 liters plus of water every day.
Wow.
So you're hydrated.
Keep hydrated, man.
Given that, this question might be redundant, but do you have a hangover, like a hangover cure, hangover drink of choice?
I love my, I mean, I love, not that I very rarely actually have a hangover, because I just can't deal with it in the morning, to be honest.
Yeah.
Bloody Mary, probably.
Yeah.
Again, nice and spicy and lots of flavour, celery salt, celery, maybe a bit of chilli chucked in there as well.
Yeah.
And,
That's great. Food-wise?
Roast chicken, man.
Roast chicken?
Yeah.
Roast.
How do you roast your chicken? Like, what is the secret
How long
to a
have
good
you
roast?
got?
Yeah. Is it really?
It is. No, because the thing with a roast chicken, although it is one of the most simplest, delicious, tasty things, there is an act. If you are a chef, everyone does their thing in terms of doing it a chefy way, because that's why we're fucking chefs.
Yeah.
And, when I occasionally, obviously, cook, have friends over and whatever, and they always, like to know what I'm going to do, and it generally is always a roast chicken. So for me, it's definitely sort of 2-3 day prior to it actually being on the table.
Chicken day.
Yeah. So I'll have my chicken, and then I'll stick it in a brine for 10 odd hours. Brine it first, then air dry it in the fridge for a day. And then on the night, say on
just quickly in a home fridge. Does that just mean putting it on a rack
and
letting air?
Right.
Exactly. You're not sort of hanging it.
Just stick it in the fridge on a wire rack in the fridge. Let the air circulate through and dry out the brine once it's been permutated through all the flesh and bits and bobs. And then basically, on the night before, so if it's Sunday, you're having your roast, I will take the bird out on the Saturday night, say whatever time I'm going to bed or whatever, out of the fridge at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. So it's actually sitting outside at room temperature. I will then I will just put a little bit of olive oil over it and a little bit of molten salt as well, just to bring that excess moisture out if there is any left in it. In the morning, I will just dab it a little bit and then put it in the oven very low at around 120 degrees. I know it's very low, I know that. 45 minutes to around 55 minutes. You are just cooking the breasts, that's it. You're not cooking the legs, because the legs will still be like clucking around, they'll be still like raw. So cook it till the breasts are ready. Let it rest for about, again, 30 odd minutes, because at that point, it's 120 degrees, it's still going to carry on cooking. And resting is the most important part after you've cooked a piece of meat, because it does allow those juices just to sit in the meat and the protein and just give moisture to whatever you're cooking. So once that, take off the legs, and in that point, I've turned up the oven to 220 degrees, So all that juice that is just, has come out a little bit, and once the meat has rested, you take the legs off, that roasting tray that you've cooked the chicken in, keep that, chuck the legs in there, smear around all the juices and the liquid that's come out of the chicken, put that into the oven, 220, and then you're going to cook those legs for around another, 20-25 minutes, turning them over every 5-10 minutes. So they get that caramelization, all that sweet flavor is turning to sugars and caramelizing. And then after about 20-25 minutes, the skin will becoming nice and crispy. At that point, you get your crown of chicken. That is going to go into the oven as well at 215. Turn it down like 5 degrees. Smear it in all that juice, because all those juices would have caramelized into nice crispy little pieces. And then just roast the shit out of it for 10 minutes.
Wow.
And then you just, once...
You know what you're doing.
Once that has happened, you then let it rest another 10 minutes when it comes out, and then you can carve and eat.
You've really got to plan your hangovers.
Do you have kids?
I do, yeah.
You've ruined them for... That's unbelievable.
Well,
they're expecting that level of sort of roast chicken dedication.
Well, they do, but then they don't give a shit, really.
They're like,
it's the roast chicken.
Yeah.
They're like, who cares, Dad?
So many Michelin star places you've had, and so many incredible kitchens you've worked in. But what's the single greatest dish you've ever come up with? Gun to the head, you've got to pick one.
Well, can I say? I remember. I still, although it's very hazy, I do remember some dishes that I did at Pierre Terre. And one dish that I remember that I used to do a lot of is because I used to when I was working with Pierre Koffmann, he used to be able to get, you can't do anymore because of Brexit and all of that. But we used to get the whole foie gras ducks that would come straight from Gascony in the back of a lorry, probably under some mattresses or something. And we would get these ducks, and then you'd have the beautiful foie gras inside. And so we'd have everything there that you could use: the duck fat, the legs, the necks, obviously the foie gras. So when I started at Pierre Terre, I used to also get the ducks in, and they're just beautiful product. And so I always used to have this excess amount of duck confit, and I was like, oh my god, I've got so much duck confit, what am I going to do with it? Because at least with when I was working with Pierre, he would stick it on everything, and he was doing more covers than me, so we would just use it all up. Anyway, so I always used to get this build up of duck confit, and I came up with this dish, basically a Balantine of duck confit and foie gras, where I would basically have the duck confit, break it down, flavor it with some, shallots and parsley and garlic and thyme and a bit of balsamic vinegar, and then I'd lay that out into a sheet. I would then cut in long cubes of foie gras along this, and I encase the foie gras in that, roll it up into a little Balantine of like this. And then in that same fat that I had cooked the confit, I'd then confit little wrapped potatoes. And then those wrapped potatoes would be, once they're cooked, they'd be sliced up, sautéed. And I'd cut these Balantine, they'd be seared on both sides, finished in the oven. So the confit would be on the outside, would just be melting as with the foie gras. And then you'd have the crispy potatoes underneath. And then you'd have a mashed salad around the edge with a truffle vinaigrette.
That sounds absolutely incredible.
It was, that was kind of delicious.
What's your guilty pleasure? Because we're about to have some food, which is Ben has created, but what is your guilty pleasure? And then we're going to go into your locations.
Guilty pleasure. Okay. Again, I'm a bit of a traditionalist. It could be anything from, a plain bowl of vanilla ice cream. And whenever my kids are hilarious, like, Daddy, why are you just having vanilla ice cream? It's so boring. But I just love the pure essence. The reason is, again, because it takes me back to when I was working with Joël Robuchon. And on the Friday night when we used to do the deep clean, I would then, with one of the senior chef de parties, we would have the task of cleaning 5 floors of spiral staircase that used to go all the way down by hand, literally ballet brosse. So I would brush, he would mop, brush and mop. This would take about 2 hours to do, or an hour and a half. Anyway, the great thing that we would do is that because we started right at the top, it was the pastry section, and because at that point all the desserts had finished and the ice cream trolley was up there, and I remember just the flavour and eating this insane vanilla ice cream that obviously that they made, and it was almost black with the amount of vanilla seeds that were in there, and that is why I'd always had such a go for with vanilla ice cream, because his was just
next level.
More than next level. It was just like, it just tasted of a vanilla bean. It was just amazing. That's why I just always have a...
Well, Ben, have you created some vanilla? What have you got?
I haven't created vanilla ice cream.
What have you got?
You put that. I've done a little ditch, so I should have put I've done a little Muhammara.
Lovely.
Muhammara.
Your pronunciation is much better than mine.
But because I actually make it, I like it.
Really?
Do you?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Come on.
Yeah,
I sort of
nice.
made it because
It's nice.
The soffles.
I find these delicious.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
which you can get on
And I thought we could-
which you can get on Deli, which are unbelievable.
Through there.
Yeah, the soffles are
Delicious.
great. You once said they were like, run by a sort of a gang because they're so hard to find nowadays, but you can get them on Deli and they're amazing.
And then I've done a little, I thought something like sort of clean and nice, just a small bowl of some little
dig in
Hainanese
already, yeah.
chicken.
Yeah.
Hainanese
that's
chicken
good.
and rice.
Using products from Deli, I'm guessing.
Yeah, using products from Deli.
Looks amazing.
Did you make this?
Yeah. Is it all right?
Bad, man. Nicely seasoned.
Yeah,
Is it
yeah.
all right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You wait till you taste this little broth.
Ooh.
God, that broth looks amazing.
Didn't know I was getting fed today as well.
Yeah, you just said, well, it's lunchtime. We'll give you a bit
Wow.
of lunch. Why not? As we do give you lunch, let's ask, what is your go-to spice or ingredient?
Okay, that's a difficult. Well, no, it's not. Let me know. Again,
Frederick?
I would probably say it's quite a strong spice, but you can't always get it. Mace.
Oh, Mace, yeah.
Yeah, because it's just like, you can use it in lots of things and curries. You can use it in, cake making as well. And I just,
Am I right in thinking it's like the outside of the
it's
nutmeg?
the husk of the
husk, yeah.
casing of the nutmeg.
A lot of places, like supermarkets, don't bother.
No, they don't.
stocking it,
No, because I don't think a lot of people know what to do with it.
No.
And you can use it in pickles and everything. And I just think it's a lovely, underrated
Yeah,
use
nice.
of a, skin of a nut. Basically.
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah.
You've talked us through your roast chicken,
Mm.
which, because it takes 3 days, can't be the dish you cook most midweek.
Well,
What's your go-to if you sort of, I don't know.
well, the thing is, again, because of work, I got into this habit
That broth is naughty, sir.
Thank you, Freddie.
that I don't really, we eat at Muse at our last meal, staff meal is at 4:30. So after that, I then won't eat.
Eat again.
I then won't eat sometimes until midday, 1 o'clock the next day.
Really?
I sometimes do this intermittent fasting thing.
Nice.
So
You probably tell I've never done an intermittent fast.
Yeah.
Tom.
no, but I mean, it just sometimes shows that how much we probably do overeat, and we really don't
Yeah.
need to to eat all the time.
What are you eating at family meal?
Well, the thing is, we all take it in turns, and sometimes we pick a country,
Nice.
and we derive the staff food from that. Or if it's because we have definitely a multicultural amount of people in the kitchen, which is great. So sometimes the lads cook up something that is from their country or whatever, and
So it could be anything.
Could be anything, yeah. So it's it's a nice way to do it. The Italian guys always do their risotto, and it's always a damn good one.
I bet it is. So it has to be, right?
So it's a good way of doing it, and then it also gives the other members of staff something that they probably wouldn't have eaten before either.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good way to do it.
No, nice.
Yeah.
What about a meal deal combination?
A meal combo.
Meal deal combination. Have you ever had a meal deal from a supermarket? Sandwich, crisp, and a fizz?
No, but I would always go for a cheese ploughman's.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I have vivid memories as well of long gone years ago of when I would on school trips and things. And my mother would have packed up my packed lunch, and I remember, and this is a bit weird, so any sandwich, like I used to love cheese and tomato, or ham, cheese and pickle, I would let them sweat in purpose with the cling film and put them like in the sunshine.
What is that? So that to get the cheese up to temperature, or just so that everything kind of amalgamates?
Yeah, I just kind of like the sweaty taste of it.
Really?
Bit weird.
No, that's not a memory that has made it onto your menu yet.
No.
Yeah, sweaty sandwich.
Sweaty sandwich.
It's a sweaty sandwich.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
Oh, it's good.
Should we go locations?
Let's go locations.
What's your go-to weeknight restaurant? If obviously you're not working at your wonderful Michelin star place, where are you going?
Well, again, that's
Not often.
That's not often that's tricky because now, as you've probably seen anyway, a lot of restaurants are shut on Monday nights, and we're shut Sunday, Monday. So it's it's tricky, and I have and I'm not just saying this because they're the minute they're kind of they're on fire in terms of their popularity. But I've just been recently to Dorian. I've been twice in the last month.
Wow.
Because I couldn't believe how good it was, and it was very, very good.
Shout him out.
And it was amazing, and really, again, it's all about talent of the chef and the raw product. And it was very good. So generally, I don't go on a Monday because Monday as well is the only time that I get to spend. My kiddies.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I've got the weekend, but I like a weeknight. It's the only
Sure.
It's the only night that I have with them. So I tend to be at home with them.
Where are you going for a sort of blowout celebratory special supper?
These are good, these Soffles.
Oh,
Thank you.
I would probably. Listen again. I think we are. We're very, very blessed with the amount of insane, good quality restaurants that we have now in this capital. I think when you look at the price range of what you had from £15 up to obviously blowout whatever 300-400, whatever you want to spend, on sushi. We are truly blessed. The amount of amazing, talented chefs, and I have my I guess some ones that that are local to me, or ones that I'm friends with that I will probably choose.
Yeah.
So I'm never going to say, oh, that's my firm favourite.
No,
because,
but come on, let's be a bit
So
brutal.
listen, I mean, out of chefs that I've eaten food recently, I've been to Claude's, Bibendum, and the Peninsula, been to Tom Sellers, so it just, again, depends on the moment and if I've got, the time.
We are spoiled. We're spoiled.
Yeah, we
basically.
are.
Yeah.
We are. I don't think there is. Well, there are a couple of capitals in the world that that are on par with us, but I just think in terms of the variety, because of our cultural heritage and history and diversity of what we have in the capital, we're lucky.
Yeah, bang on.
What about your favourite hidden gem?
Hidden gem. Well, it's funny that when I'm thinking like if I can think back like a few years ago, when they had just started, chicken sours.
Yeah,
When I went
good.
the
We went there
first
last week.
time.
It's
It is,
good, isn't
yeah,
it?
That pickled watermelon is unbelievable.
Yeah, and
That's a nice shout, Tom. I like that.
no, and I just always, when I went the first time, I was like, fucking hell, this is.
I agree with you. I told them to change their name so people they could call it like a Thai kooky like restaurant name, and people would be like, "This is insane."
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect chicken zest.
Yeah, right.
He was quite insulted by that. I'm sorry
said,
about that.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
You were kicked out.
yeah, he kicked me out and then beat me up. But it's
It's amazing.
fucking
Like
good.
everything's very high, like delicious. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it is,
agree.
yeah. And that's for me. That is the most important thing. Right? Like, regardless of, of price that you're paying, whether it's a 3-star meal or it's a fast food takeaway, the food has to be tasty and delicious.
Yeah.
And then some of these places, particularly, I would say when you're going to 2 or 3-star, they forget that, and they're trying to do something else, But at the end of the day, if you are paying a shitload of money, you want it to be tasty and delicious, and you want it to be seasonally driven. And it's not about, what the chef is wanting to do, it just has to be that. Sometimes we
That
forget
should be the
that.
starting point, yeah. Because fundamentally, it is still you're cooking someone's lunch or supper.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly.
Totally.
Should we go to the deli back?
Yeah, can you remember what's in there, Tom?
We got some tuna, we got some anchovy, we got some coconut milk, we got some curry paste of sometimes, and a bag of noodles.
Wow, you got a great memory.
What are you thinking? I mean, like it's hard when you give
What are you
given a
gonna make?
laxer paste. Not
And guys, you can make the same thing. All you got to do is
Well,
come
listen,
to
I
the
mean, it's
website.
going to be, it's going to be a curry of something. We've got the noodles and
Yeah.
we've got the anchovy and the tuna. So I probably, if I had a little bit of,
You can bring some other things. to the
okay,
party.
well, I have some fresh chili, some olive oil, some garlic, and I would then fry the shit out of obviously the chili and the garlic and everything with some dried chili flakes. Literally have the ramen noodles just, ready to go,
Yeah.
cooked. Chuck in the anchovy and the tuna chunks, just literally like 15 seconds, just quickly fry them in that chili and garlic, chuck on the noodles, and have the coconut milk and the turmeric and lemongrass thing simmering
Wow.
kind of away, and then chuck it all
Bang.
together. Yeah,
That is
done,
incredible.
done.
And guys, you can do the same. All you do is go to the Deli website, put in the code GOTODELI, and you can get 25% off. Tom, you've been absolutely wonderful. Michelin stars galore, incredible
Pleasure.
memories, highs and lows, just a wonderful career. But everyone go check out his amazing restaurant, if you can get space. We obviously can't at the moment. We're going to finish off with your go-to 3-course meal. If you could eat one 3-course meal one more time,
Okay.
what would it be?
So starter would be scallops in the half shell, just with olive oil, butter, garlic, thyme, lemon zest, cooked on a barbie. Bubble, 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 caramelization, cooked a little bit of garlic in there. Then it would be a beautiful aged ribeye of beef coming from an old dairy cow, probably around 8-9 years, being hanging for about 6 weeks. Triple cooked, chipped in beef fat. Homemade, of course, hollandaise or béarnaise sauce on the side, and then vanilla ice cream with
Had to
a
be.
tart
À la
tatin.
Robuchon.
Oh, really? With a
Yeah,
tart
with a tart tatin.
Good. Well, Tom, you've been absolutely wonderful. Good luck with everything, and thank you so much for coming in and telling us your
Pleasure.
amazing story. We could have stayed for hours more and enjoyed this wonderful non-alcoholic wine and obviously the wonderful food you've created, Ben. But guys, we'll be back again next week. Please leave us a 5-star rating, share it with all your friends, and a couple of comments, and just share the love because it really helps us. Tom, those are your go-tos.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Tom.
That was wonderful.